Y'all like turning the radio down so you can see better. Good evening. I'd like to call to order the Caldwell County Department of Social Services Board Meeting. Today is Tuesday, June 27th, and we're running just a little bit behind because it's about 2:15 in the afternoon. But we'll get the meeting started tonight, and we'll just get started with the Pledge of Allegiance and the invocation, and our director, Will Wakefield, will do that.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Let us pray. God, we thank you for this beautiful day and for this time that we can come here and gather and do the work of this agency. And we pray for those that we serve and for our community. We pray for those who are in need and those who are struggling. And we just ask that you would be with this board, be with our staff as we reach out to those individuals who need assistance and help us to do so in a way that is caring and kind and helpful. And we pray for them and for their situations, and we just continue to pray for this county. And we just ask that you would guide us this evening and in all that we do here for the Department of Social Services. In your name I pray. Amen.
Amen. All right. Thank you, Will. Appreciate that. So I need I need a motion to approve the agenda as it is. Is there any amendments or anything to it?
At recognitions, I did want to add introduction of new supervisors there at the beginning.
All right, fantastic. Madam Clerk, did you get that noted? Lori, did you note that? Perfect. All right, need a motion to approve the agenda as it sits.
I'll make a motion.
Need a second? All right, have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. All opposed. Motion carries. Need a motion to approve the minutes from the last meeting.
I'll make a motion.
Second.
A second.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed. Motion carries. All right. Get into the meats and potatoes of this thing tonight. We're going to start with our recognitions, and we'll start with Kim Arnett, who will introduce our new supervisors to us.
Foster, and Stephanie came to us from another county in child welfare. She has collectively worked in child welfare for about 19 years.
Wow.
She also has experience with juvenile justice, which can be very helpful when we're working with our juvenile justice partners, and also in mental health. So we're very excited to have Stephanie, and she is supervising a team of investigators and assessors. She supervises 5 of those staff. We're very excited
Fantastic.
to have her. She's doing a great job.
Thank you. Welcome.
And this is Nicole Huffman. Some of you probably know Nicole.
Yep.
Nicole has been with us she was with us previously, and she left for a little while, and she did some work with juvenile justice, and then she decided to come back. She also worked in another county for a little bit. She has worked in child welfare for about 20 years, and also been a therapeutic foster parent. And she also worked in the public school system, so she has quite a varied array of experience. And so we're very glad to have Nicole moving into or has moved into one of our supervisor positions of our assessment unit 2. So she'll be supervising 5 investigator assessors. So
That's
we're
fantastic.
excited for-
Thank you.
to have
Congratulations to you,
Yeah,
ladies.
welcome.
both of those individuals.
We're very
Now-
excited.
Now, Stephanie, are you from Caldwell County?
No, sir, I live in Catawba County.
Okay, Catawba. I know Nicole was here in Caldwell, so. Oh, you're not? I thought you lived here. Huh?
Burke County.
Oh, okay. I thought you lived here for some reason.
I travel about 45 minutes.
Oh, okay. Well,
Yep.
welcome.
Welcome.
Congratulations again to you.
We're excited
you.
to have you.
So I had a chance to spend a little time with some of these folks yesterday. I met with the supervisors at DSS to talk about what they'd like to see in their next director. So we got a lot of feedback, some good comments and things of that nature. So I had the opportunity to meet those two yesterday. All right. Next one is going to be retirement of some employees, Debbie Clark, income maintenance caseworker, and unfortunately, Mr. Will Wakefield. Tonight, we'll be officially announcing his retirement from DSS after 28 and some change.
It'll be a total of 28 years.
28 years,
Yes.
yeah. Well, Will, you don't look 67, is all I can tell you. You can tell that really well.
I'm glad I don't look 67. Yeah.
So, are you going to announce your retirement tonight as well?
I guess I can officially announce it here tonight. I've announced it, I guess, gosh, it's probably been
Yeah.
3 weeks ago, a month ago.
Probably a month ago, yeah.
Whatever. But yes, we'll be retiring at the end of August, I guess 31st. I guess there are 31 days in August. And so it has certainly been my pleasure to serve Department of Social Services and to have worked here for the county for that period of time. I think 1995, I believe, end of 95. And then I left for 9 months and actually came back after those 9 months. So,
Somebody back there nodding their head.
so yeah. So it has certainly been my privilege to serve. And a couple months ago, as we kind of worked through this transition, but yeah, looking forward to a little bit of a sabbatical is what I'm calling it, and then we'll kind of figure out what happens from there.
You gonna come back to work at DSS? We're probably gonna have some openings by then.
If I do, it'll be somewhere a good ways down the road.
I understand.
So yeah.
So I will tell you, Will, and I didn't share this with you yesterday, I was gonna share this evening. Yeah, probably had, I don't know, how many we have yesterday? Probably 25 or 30 supervisors in the room. And there was a lot of extremely positive comments about your tenure at DSS. A lot of the things that were brought out that they want to see in their next director, they got from you. That was a very common comment, that the things that, your compassion for other people, your compassion for employees. We did have somebody that said you like to, I forgot the term, maybe ponder.
Process.
Ponder.
Ponder.
Process.
We had somebody who said you like to ponder a little bit. I think that might have been the only negative comment that you had. So,
Not a negative.
I mean, if that was a negative comment, I don't know. It's pretty good, but he is a ponderer.
I'm a ponderer.
Sometimes there's nothing wrong with pondering, dude. But I've told you this many times how much I appreciate what you've done, and I feel like you've become a good friend. You've done an excellent job of leading that department, and I would put our department up against anybody in this state, and I think that a lot of that has contributed to your service and what you've brought to the table. So I appreciate everything you've done for the citizens of this county, for the employees, the many employees that have crossed your path through the years. You'll be hard to replace, and you just brought a different dynamic to everything that is hard to find today. So, but your tenure there also helped with experience and knowledge and background and all that stuff. So I just can't thank you enough for everything you've done, and my guess is you'll continue to do for people in our community. So thank you for all your service to our county.
Well, and I appreciate that, and those are very kind words. I guess the only thing I can say to that, though, is anything that I have done or any recognition, it is because of these folks and the staff who have made that happen, and have pushed me to be a better person and to be a better director. And I've certainly learned from them, and I've learned from you and boards before you, and so I appreciate that. Those are very, very kind words, but I have to give credit to to those folks and who are out there doing that work on a day-to-day basis, and they make me look good, and that's great.
Yep.
But I do appreciate them, and I appreciate each of you and the work that you guys do, and oversight of this board and oversight of me. So thank you.
Yep.
Well, we wish you well.
Thank you. I
Enjoy your
appreciate that.
sabbatical.
I look forward to it. I look forward to it. I will mention that Debbie Clark was unable to be with us this evening. But I did want to just say thank you to Debbie and for the work that she's done. And some of you know Debbie. I think she's been with us around 14 years. And she has certainly done an excellent job in a really tough work of our eligibility program areas. And in the time span that Debbie was here, we had a lot of changes within eligibility, and specifically food and nutrition, I think was the area she worked in most of that whole time. And so she hung in there through some of those transitions. But even though she wasn't able to be with us tonight, we did just want to certainly recognize Debbie for her work and the fact that she will be leaving us at the end of this week, I guess, technically.
End of the month,
end of this
yep.
week.
So Debbie, I've got to know Debbie through the years as I became a commissioner, and, Debbie's another one that is going to be greatly missed because of the knowledge that she has and her ability to work through the challenging times and that we've had. And I find it interesting that, people are starting to retire before Medicaid expansion gets here in October. So I don't know if that has anything to do with it or not, but I think there's a little bit of, concern about that because that's going to be a little hectic. So y'all need to, get ready because it's going to be a handful, I'm afraid. So it's going to be a challenge, but we'll get through it. We always do. We always have. We have a great staff. I'm very optimistic that they'll come out of this thing just like they always do. So, but thank you, Will, and thank you to Debbie for your service to our county and our citizens here.
Thank you.
All right, next on the agenda is the foster care graduates. Luana Knox, social worker. It's always good to see you.
Well, thank you.
You bring good news.
Always
when
good to be seen.
You bring good news when you come. Good news.
Thank you, thank you. Well, good afternoon. And I've had the great honor to talk about our 7 graduates this year. So I can't say that I've met them all, but reading their bios that their workers provided, I'm sorry that I haven't. So the first one will be Alexa, and she was transplanted to Caldwell County from another county in North Carolina due to safety reasons. When she arrived, she was brought to the shelter, but she voluntarily signed herself into foster care, the 18 to 21 program. And as part of the program is working on goals. And so 2 of her goals were to obtain a job and a place to live. Within several months, she obtained employment, an apartment, and with the help of DSS and the DV shelter. Another one of her goals was obtaining her GED. And so in September of 2022, she started, and she finally received her GED earlier this month from CCC and TI, and she plans on enrolling in a community college to pursue a career path in business administration. So our second graduate is also 19 years old, and he is in the foster care 18 to 21 year old program. And he resides in a different county with his younger brother and foster parent. And he's been in this home since coming into DSS custody in 2016. He decided that he did not want to be adopted, even though his foster parents adopted his younger brother. However, he considers this family his home, and he graduated from high school earlier this month, and he plans on becoming a digital creator professional game. Our next young lady, Emily, came into care at 16, and she aged out this year, but then she voluntarily signed into the 18 to 21 year program. She's had, since being in care for the past 7 years, she's resided in 20 placements. Even though she didn't care much for school, she accomplished graduating high school a semester early. And she is enrolled for the fall semester at CCC and TI and wants to begin her classes online. And her career goal is working in the medical field. Now, this young lady I have met because she is in my caseload. Riley graduated high school on June 9th, 2023. She has been in the custody of Caldwell County DSS since August 2018. She has been fortunate to remain in the same foster home where she has been empowered to dream big and work hard for her dreams. She sees no limitations in herself because of the support of the foster home, her GL, DSS, and the community. During her almost 5 years there, she has grown tremendously. She has her learner's permit, she's worked at Wendy's, opened bank accounts, and is very proud of her accomplishments. She advocated to take honors classes and did well because she had an IEP. And so for those in education realizes that she did have to advocate. She has been accepted into community college and is very excited about that. And she hopes to get an associate in applied science, modeling and animation, game design and programming certificate. And then she transferred to Western Carolina University, where she fell in love with it when she did a visit. She also plans to sign a VPA, voluntary placement agreement, and she is fortunate enough to move in with one of the extended members of her foster mother's family to be closer to the community college, and she is working with Voc Rehab to find a new job.
Fantastic.
So I was going to let LaWanda talk about all these, but then there were so many, I offered to talk about some of them for her. So we have another guy named Brennan who graduated from Britain Academy recently. He is interested in being a lineman, so it's a interesting and kind of dangerous career, but I think I think that people who are linemen really enjoy that line of work, so I hope that he's able to do that. Brennan is a kind, funny, friendly individual and just makes friends wherever he goes. His social worker wanted to make sure that she said she's extremely proud of Brennan and all that he has accomplished. We have Tasha, who is next. Tasha received her high school diploma through Penn Foster Program while at Job Corps. So she's one of the few youth that we've had at Job Corps. She was completing her schoolwork while also participating in a culinary trade there. She is no longer there, but she is now at a transitional independent living program, and she's 18 years old, looking into applying for colleges. She does have a job lined up at a restaurant that's getting ready to open. She really enjoys cooking, sleeping, going for walks, reading, drawing, coloring, music, and just hanging out with her boyfriend. So she is doing really well. And then we have another 17-year-old male, Jaden, and he graduated this past spring. He's very smart. He's determined to go to a 4-year university. He has been able to be with family, placed with family. He plans to attend the local community college in the fall. He also works part-time at a family-owned business. He really enjoys reading, video games, and spending time with his family. So we are very proud of all of these young adults. Very excited to see that we have 7 this year. I don't think we
pretty awesome.
typically have that many.
I don't remember that, because I've
yeah.
been serving, we don't
Yeah.
remember that many, so.
So very excited about all that.
Well,
Good
kudos
get
to
that
you guys and your
recognition.
staff, and your team for doing what they do to help these children, so.
Yes.
I guess
So-
young adults are not children anymore, young
I know,
adults.
I know.
Yeah.
I can find myself saying child, but they're not. They're,
Nope,
some
they're
of
young
them are
adults,
actually
yep.
over 18, but yeah. If they
That's
can-
right, because all of them, they're over 18, right?
Except
Yeah.
one,
Except, okay,
and she'll be 18 in August the 4th.
okay.
Yeah, and Jaden is still 17 right now.
Oh,
but,
okay.
Yeah. So, yeah.
Well, that's
Very
great, because
excited.
the
Very proud of them.
challenges that those young adults face, coming up through the process,
Mm-hmm.
it's, the likelihood of them finding success is sometimes very challenging and limited, so it says a lot for our social workers and the way they track them and keep up with them and stay in touch with them. I've heard stories from you guys many times about sometimes you're the only ones they have to talk to, so it's, says a lot what you guys do.
And it's not just an 8 to 5 support.
Correct.
It's whenever
Well, I
they
would
need
say
it,
that,
our
I
social
mean,
workers are there.
Y'all become their extended family. I mean, you are their extended family, and you become their friend, So I remember the one that somebody was telling us about that they've been growing for several years, and they still talk to them on a regular basis,
Yeah.
So
It's
kudos to you guys. Yeah,
Yeah, they do a great job.
yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
All righty. Well, since we don't have Chris to pick on tonight because he's on vacation, we'll just let Will do this financial report, see if he can bring some entertainment to us with this tonight.
I probably won't be as entertaining as Chris, unfortunately. As you can see, this month, reimbursements that were posted, $867,853, and our expenses that were posted, $1,160,140, and so our total county funds were $292,287, so nothing really special about that, kind of normal month for us. Year-to-date, you will see county dollar-wise, from last year, there's only about, overall, year-to-date, $164,178 difference, and that's fairly close. That's not a lot of money, really. In terms of our year-to-date expenses and revenues overall versus last year, it's a little bit less in both areas, and I think there's a couple of reasons for that. Some of that is expense due to staffing and turnover, but another part of that, a large part of that, last year we received a lot of funds through the energy programs, a lot of federal funds that came in last year that we didn't receive this year, a lot of those ARPA dollars and things like that. So that's why there's a little bit of difference there. Next month, this month, you won't see the report until next month. Typically, June, depending on, as you guys have seen over the past several years, depending on when we get those reimbursements, whether or not the state gets us our reimbursements before the fiscal year closes out and all of those types of things, that plays a little bit of havoc with our budget. Hopefully those will come in and we'll be able to wrap that fiscal year up and not have to post them into next year. We never know when it gets to the end of the year from our June reimbursement standpoint, so we'll see where that goes. But thus far, everything tracking as we would expect, and I will try to answer any questions if you have any, or I will refer them on to Chris when he gets back.
When he gets back. How are we doing from a budgetary standpoint for 2022, 23? I mean, we're going to come in under budget, at budget, a little over budget? What's the?
Oh, we will definitely be under.
That's what I was thinking.
Under
Yeah.
budget, yes.
Yeah, I thought so. Anybody else? Any questions? All right. Well, thank you, Will.
Thank you.
Now we'll let Will continue, and we'll let him give us a director's report and see what's going on. He's got coming up new, what's going on there,
So, of course, I'm going to talk about Medicaid expansion. We can't
imagine that.
do anything, without talking about Medicaid expansion.
That's a good thing, though. I mean, it's a good thing.
It is. As you may have heard or may not have heard, the budget, the state budget has not been passed yet. They've moved fairly well at hitting their deadlines this year, more so than probably in years past. And I think their goal was by the end of June to have passed the state budget, but our understanding is that is not going to happen this week. Odds are it probably won't happen until maybe the second week in July. And if for some reason it doesn't happen then, it may be several weeks later, because I believe there was some other event that a lot of the legislators attend that may even push it back further. So that's kind of where the state budget is now. The reason that that's kind of important, even though Medicaid expansion has passed in its own bill, that bill moving forward is attached to the budget, the state budget. So we are waiting on that. As far as we know, that really doesn't affect where we're headed. I don't think anyone has any concerns about that. It is going to be what we believe it's going to be. So we are making preparations for that. As far as we know, October 1st is probably going to be the go-live date, unless something really gets muddled here in the next couple of weeks, but that is what we all believe is going to occur. We, as an agency, are working on our plan to get to you guys in terms of what that's going to look like from a staffing standpoint. We talked just briefly about that at our last meeting, but we're going to get that in front of you so that we can then make those plans budgetarily and get that in front of the commissioners. Because if you'll remember, we did our budget just as a normal budget for this year, knowing that there would be a lot of, we weren't sure exactly what was going to happen. And so then we'll come in behind and do a budget amendment with the commissioners, with our plan in terms of staffing and those things that we need to do, we want to do, and get a framework in place to prepare for Medicaid expansion. So we will get that to you, and so that you can look over that and understand what that's going to be, and then we're going to get that to the commissioners so we can get that budget amendment done and be able to move forward with beginning to put things in place. And I say that because I think it makes sense that we put a structure in place that it's not everything, but it gets us started. Because again, we're, and probably for another 6 months, 9 months, we're really not sure how this is going to really look. So we'll get a framework in place, get started with that. And then I think somewhere down the road, the agency will end up making some changes. What I can say is that in looking at the funding that we've received, a portion of the funds, and then starting, if everything goes as planned, starting in October, counties will continue to receive a monthly amount as well that goes along with Medicaid expansion. And looking at those dollars and then looking at our reimbursement that also still gets factored in, there will be funding there where we will be able to do what we need to do without having to add county dollars to it. And so that's very important, certainly for this year, but then even going into next year, that funding is set to increase. The year after that, it's set to increase. So this will be something that counties can count on. And obviously, that's important in terms of looking at your county dollars and wanting to utilize a lot of that money that's going to be coming to this state. And counties need to be able to count on having some of that funding and not just other entities. So that's important. So we will get that to you and be able to move forward in that process. I did want to mention that we have started, this past month, we started a recruitment and retention committee. Actually, we had one of our meetings today, and the goal behind our recruitment and retention committee is recruitment and retention. So there's a group of about 15, 16 of us that includes mostly line staff, a couple of management staff, and then includes our HR department. And so we're really looking at, what are things that we need to do, not just as a county, but as an agency, to really kind of focus on, attracting good quality staff and also keeping good quality staff. And some of those things, we talk about kind of the bigger things. We may talk about money, and we may talk about incentives and all those types of things that we're going to talk about. But it's also, simple things about how we, what do today we were talking about, what do our job descriptions look like? And do they really focus on what we believe we do well within our county? How do we attract people to say, hey, this is, when you read our job description, it's not just about what you're doing, but it's about why we believe you can do that well here and you can make a difference here. So some of those types of simple things. It's a good group. I think we've made some good headway, and we'll continue to meet and begin to put some things in place. Some of those may be short-term, quick, simple things, and other aspects may be more long-term that are going to take some work and cooperation and collaboration, and certainly work with HR as well. So, but the staff have done a great job in that committee, and have come up with a lot of good ideas, and so we're excited about that. And that's something that, for me, even though, I'm not here in a couple months, that's going to continue to move on, and that's going to be important to us. So, it's been a good group, and we look forward to continuing with that work group.
So, and to give you a little bit of backstory, we are currently looking at our benefit package for the county as well, and some of our policies. And one of the things that just came up recently is, and I've got a burr in my saddle over this one. So it's our bereavement days. You lose a loved one, we give you 3 bereavement days. Well, they're really not bereavement days because you got to take sick time. It's not a true bereavement day. You might as well just say you gotta take sick time. So in my personal opinion, it's something that I think that, those are the kind of things we need to look at, because other counties, you know, I'm a big proponent, we don't need to model ourselves off of somebody else, right? Let's be the first one to step outside the box. So I have challenged our county manager to, and our HR director to start looking at those things that we can do that are different than other counties, to your point, as far as, you know, retention and recruitment. So, it's just, when I found out about the bereavement day, I was told that this is just the way we've always done it. Well, that ain't a good enough answer for me, you know, it's just the way government does it. So, I get it, but, when you have a loved one, you lose a loved one, and you shouldn't be taking your sick time that you've earned for sick time. You shouldn't have to do that. That just sounded weird to me. So, just so you know, I've talked to some of this group that we met yesterday about that, but you wasn't there, so. And I don't know if HR director mentioned any of that to you, but they are looking at all that. They're gonna try to put it together and bring it to us as a big package and let us approve the whole package instead of doing it, you know,
Right.
one at a time. Let's back up just a little bit to Medicaid expansion. I understand it, a lot of people don't. We know that there's gonna be somewhere, and I don't even know that we understand it, to be honest with you, but, we know there's gonna be somewhere around 5,000 people in Caldwell County that will be eligible for it, give or take a few. We don't really know a true answer till the person comes in and we sit down with them and find out whether they qualify. But is there a way for you to kind of give the people that are watching at home just kind of a 30,000-foot view of what Medicaid expansion is and what it's going to do and who might qualify?
I can give a part of that.
Yes.
And then, because I don't want to say something that's not going to be.
No, I get it.
Not going to be true.
Yeah.
Do you want it, if you can probably give a better answer than I can if you want to go ahead and do that, yeah.
So I can tell you what I know as of right now, and
Right.
all that's subject to change. So they're going to focus on individuals ages 19 to 64.
Yep.
Those are what we call the people that fall through the cracks. So we, of course, have Medicaid programs for children, and the income limit's a lot higher, but sometimes for parents, if they make hardly any money, they still are not eligible. So they're gonna, and then we have some elderly that may be disabled from work but not disabled by the state. They don't fall into that eligibility criteria, so they're gonna try to focus on that criteria there. And then you don't have to have a child in the home. It will be under our family Medicaid area, but you do not have to have a child in the home. You have to be a resident, of course, of North Carolina. And if you do have a child in the home under the age of 18, they have to be enrolled in Medicaid. And that's all the eligibility criteria as of right now. So
I
it's
know
going
this
to
is
be
going to be a burden, but it's my understanding that it's really going to help because there's so many people that actually do fall in the middle. They fall
Right.
between that crack right there. And I think the goal is to try to help capture that person and get them some health care, especially for small businesses that they can't afford to provide insurance. Insurance is so expensive. So for the small business, it's important to understand that they may have an employee who today don't have insurance. Under this new Medicaid expansion, he potentially could have Medicaid, which gives him insurance for health care, which in turn keeps him healthier so he can continue to work.
right.
So I want to make sure that our businesses understand that this could be a significant assistance and help to them in keeping their workforce moving and the things that they need, on a daily
Yeah.
basis. So, but that was a good overview, and,
Yeah. Other than that, I think the income limit's going to be like 133% of federal poverty level, so it's going to be pretty high income limit.
how
too.
will this affect, a couple of things that stick out was, how will this affect the homeless people who literally living in the woods? I'm assuming they would qualify potentially?
Yes.
Okay. And then you have a lot of people who are addicted to substance abuse, and they're not able to work because of their addiction, so that person potentially could now, where he couldn't get no help because he didn't have no insurance, now he can potentially get help. So
Yes.
there's just a couple of things that stick out in my mind there that, this could be a significant help. And
Oh, yeah.
I know we're saying roughly 5,000, give or take a few. I think there's more than that.
Yeah, over in North Carolina, it's looking at around 600,000 individuals. Of course, that's over North Carolina, and we're just a very small portion, but
Yeah.
I'm thinking it's gonna be more than 5,000 as well.
Yeah, I think so too. I think there's people out there we just don't know about.
Yeah.
Brenda, do you anticipate that folks who are currently eligible for family planning will
Yes.
move into?
Yeah, so the state sends us estimates, so we don't know exactly for our county, but, well, we do have a rough estimate for our county, but for the state as a whole, it's going to be about 300,000 that are on family planning currently that will now be eligible for expansion. I think for the county, it's going to be about 3,500 if I'm correct on my numbers.
How are we, it's probably a stupid question, but how will somebody know that if they're homeless per se, how will they know that they can now be eligible for Medicaid? How are we going to communicate to the
And
citizens that it's out there, that
Yeah,
it's
and
available?
And that's a part of, I know the state, I'm sure they will do a whole, media blitz and whatnot, but for us locally, that will be a piece of it, is to be able to take that information, and I don't know if they've sent us a toolkit yet.
Not yet.
That outlines some of the things that Brandy's talked about, but that will be something for us to do locally, to make sure that we get that out there and say, hey, this could be helpful to you, this
It's
could be
available, yeah.
beneficial to you. And certainly we have a lot of people who come in and apply now, and they are over income, and so those individuals who just come in and apply, who would normally have been over, whether they knew it or not, some of them are gonna, they're gonna fall into it.
Yeah.
But that will be incumbent on us to make sure that we're doing the part of
Y'all
that.
capture it,
and
yeah.
getting that information out there.
One thing you probably need to know about is Western Piedmont Council of Government is currently, they secured some money to combat or deal with the homeless problem in the Unifor area in their region, I guess. They're hiring, I don't remember what the position is called, but let's call it a director. There's gonna be like 4 people, 4 social workers that sit under that person that's all they're gonna do every day is deal with the homeless. So it may not be a bad idea to reach out to the COG and make that connection. So when they're in the process of making that connection to the homeless person, that they could have that as a resource,
Yeah.
to go back to.
I know we'll reach out to some of our partners that work, Helping Hands,
Yep, good
West
one.
Caldwell Health Council. We'll reach out to different places like
Yep.
that and let them know, because they see a lot of that traffic who don't have Medicaid.
Correct.
So we'll definitely do that. And then with our CPS, APS, we'll have them passing along that information as
Got it.
well. So hopefully word of mouth and advertisement will get
Yep.
it out there.
That sounds good. Thank you, Brandy. All right, next on the agenda is Child Services and Adult Highlights. Ms. Kim Arnett, Children's Program Services Administrator.
So May was a busy month, especially for child welfare. In May, we took 228 calls through our intake area, and so that compares to around usually 150, 160. And so May just exploded for some reason through our intake department. 75 of those calls were we ended up having to investigate situations that were reported. Some of those calls were for other things, not necessarily all reports. We had 37 cases in which we had to help other counties throughout May. We have 30 families that we're currently working with through our in-home or case management services in child welfare. We have 141 children in foster care at the end of May, and that is under 18. And then we had 12 in our 18 to 21 program in May. So that number for our 18 to 21 usually stays around 12 or 13. It's pretty consistent. We had 3 adoptions finalized in May, and our foster home licensing at the time in May that we submit these stats, we had 20 regular foster homes that we license and 6 relative or kinship homes that we license. For our adult services area, we had 51 of our adults in the community that are wards of our wards of the state, who we have legal guardianship over, and we had 22 investigations that we investigated with adults in May.
And is that number up for APS reports as well?
Not really up. We've had some, I can't remember, I think it was March. Was it March that was so busy? That was it was probably double what we typically have for investigations in adult protective services. So May wasn't quite as busy for them as some other months have been.
I will say the past, maybe quarter, we've had a lot, it's been very busy from the guardianship standpoint. We have, just in the past couple of months, we ended up probably filing 5 or 6 guardianships. And so that's been unusual here in the past several months in our adult area, and been very busy. And some of those, part of that was because at least one of those was a couple. So it was, things were not going well for the couple, and we ended up having to, get guardianship of both.
And that's an
of them.
unusual situation.
Yeah.
Yep.
So-
I was asked a question the other day, and I didn't really know the answer to it. I knew we did it, but I don't know how many we do a year, and the question was asked of, a lot of people don't realize that when somebody passes away and they don't have family or anybody that can take care of the services and things of that nature, that we have to take care of it. And the question was asked, how many, do we have those a year? And I didn't know the answer. I know it's not a lot, but.
It's not. I was just trying to think off the top of my head. Probably the past several years, we probably averaged, it could be anywhere from 3 to 6, maybe
Yep.
a year. So probably more than you would think, because people don't really think about that.
You just don't think about it, that's right.
Yeah.
This person was like, I can't believe that. I'm like, yeah, it's true.
Yeah.
We do DSS, that's where it ends up, is back in our,
Yeah.
DSS and.
And some of that, sometimes it's because there truly is, this person, maybe they've outlived family or what have you, and there's just, there's really no one else there to take that responsibility on. Sometimes it is when others, for whatever reasons, just don't want to take that responsibility on. And
Yep.
after a certain period of time, 10 days,
I was gonna
something's
say,
gotta
I
happen.
told this person it was 10 days, so I
Yeah.
thought that was
Yeah.
right, yeah.
Yeah.
So we end up, the county
I think we just had one
handles that.
just recently, didn't we?
I don't, we probably did, I don't remember,
Okay.
but.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure we did, because
Every so often,
we had one that was, that's why I was asking, they were like, what happens to this person if nobody steps up and takes responsibility? I said, it'll go back to DSS, and it's our responsibility.
Yeah, that's not something a lot of people know that we
No,
that
they
we
don't
do,
understand it,
and-
no.
some folks that, that work in different areas of social services may not even know that, because
Yeah.
that's something that our adult services do, and it's not really well known, so.
Nope, it's just, I think it's good that the community knows that, the things that we have to encounter,
Yeah.
more than we obviously would like to, right? I think it's something that, as we go through, educating the public on, what DSS does, I think that's just one of those things that people don't think about it. And like you said, you think there's gotta be somebody, right? But sometimes there ain't nobody, unfortunately.
Right.
And, it's sad to say that, but it's a fact. And, that falls upon, y'all and our department to deal with that tragic incident, so. Anybody got any questions? You got some more?
Well, I was just gonna say one more thing, is, the state in child welfare has consulted with the public consulting group to conduct a work study. So they have decided, we've been asking for this for quite some time now, and so what they're looking at is, really how long it takes to do casework for our child welfare staff. And they're looking at caseloads and workforce. And so it started June the 12th, and it'll go through July the 12th. And they've picked some random case samples from all over the state and asked our social workers to participate in a random moment in time study, but also an online time study instrument where they're going in and putting everything that they're doing every day. So it's a pretty big time commitment for staff. But I'm hoping that they get some good information, some good data to then take to our legislators to help with funding our work, or funding our counties for workforce.
Yep.
So we are really hoping for some good information to come out of that.
Anybody got any questions? Comments? Thank you, Kim.
Thank you.
Always great job. All right, next is Family Support Services highlights. Ms. Brandy Hood, Economic Services Administrator.
So I'll go over some numbers over the month of May with Economic Services. So the county provided Medicaid services to 28,076 individuals throughout the month. Food and nutrition services provided benefits to 14,067 individuals. That is 7,457 households, totaling $2,198,944. Our customer service staff assisted 2,177 clients at our front desk. Our switchboard handled 3,700 phone calls throughout the month. Child care services was provided to 607 children throughout the month, and child care is still currently continuing on a no waiting list for families. Emergency assistance, that is our energy program, they handled 222 telephone calls in regards to emergency assistance and completed 123 applications totaling $16,722.11 in benefits. Child support collected $452,742.95. And they have 2,749 active cases currently in the county. So that's just a brief rundown of our totals for the month of May. I just want to add a couple things. For our food and nutrition area, of course, Medicaid is very crazy right now. We're trying to prepare. We're going through trainings. The PHE has ended for Medicaid, so we're trying to get back kind of to a normal status with policy and procedures. So Medicaid is we've been doing a lot of training in Medicaid, and we're waiting on some training for expansion. We're doing several meetings and things like that just to make sure everyone's on the same page with Medicaid. But for food, I want to mention that for food and nutrition, our waivers that was in place are ending June 30th. The ones that was in place for our PHE, they will be ending Friday. So starting next week, clients will then have to provide proof of employment. They will go back to ABOD rules. They will have to provide, we'll have to go back to normal policy for food and nutrition. The state did give us permission to continue with telephonic signature for recertification and application, so we'll be able to still do that over the phone, which was great for the clients as well. And then we also got an extension on the interview being waived. So if they've had an interview in the last year, because for food and nutrition, some of those cases gets recertified every 6 months. So if they've had an interview in the last year, they do not have to have an interview again. So that is a good thing for those caseworkers going through those applications. They won't have to do as much contact there. Unless, of course, it's needed. If it's needed, they always make contact at that point. Okay, do you have any questions for me?
I have a couple, I always do. How, child support collections, I know we used to, last couple of years, we always were some of the leading in the state. We always led the state in, top quintile in the state of how we collections. How are we doing now since Mitch is retired and that's all changed? Are we still maintaining a good, okay?
Yes, we definitely are. There has been some vacancies in that area, but even with the vacancies, we have some really good staff in our child
Good.
support department, and they have maintained very good numbers throughout the state.
One thing I wanted you to note too, and you can take it back to your staff, you may or may not be aware of this, Union Grove did a ribbon cutting today on their new food warehouse.
Oh, okay.
It's every
I didn't know.
every other Tuesday. It's the same one that used to be at Mountain Grove, but we built a warehouse, the church built a warehouse, and now we have frozen foods, we have cold foods, things that need to be kept cool, also frozen foods and perishable items, and obviously drinks and, Gatorades and tea and all kinds of stuff. So
Okay.
it's, make sure your staff's aware of that. It's
Yeah.
it's, I think it's the second and the fourth Tuesday of each
Every other
month.
Tuesday.
Whatever this Tuesday is. What's this Tuesday, the fourth?
Yes.
Yeah, second and fourth. Yeah, is that
Okay.
right?
At Union Grove.
I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is,
Yeah,
it is the
Union
fourth.
Grove. So
Okay.
we were anticipating today to have about 250 families to come. There was a possibility we were maybe have more than that because they closed the big one in Morganton today.
Mm-hmm.
Was its last day of operation. So there was a percentage that was thrown out today at the ribbon cutting. I was there. That was a little bit flabbergasting to me that 15% of our citizens don't necessarily know where their next meal's gonna come from.
Yeah.
Children especially is a concern in the summertime, because sometimes their only meal is what they get at school, the breakfast and the lunch, and may not have a supper. So that's something that was pretty, eye-opening when he said 15%, of our citizens don't necessarily know where their meal's coming from. So if you do the math, that's a lot of people.
Right.
It definitely is.
I wonder if the school system still does the summer food
They do.
program.
They are.
And is there any kind of, who can access this thing you're talking about, the food?
Anybody,
Anybody that just show up?
drive up, yep,
Great.
And what's the times for that?
5 to 7. I mean,
So
it's
it's
very,
the
very
second.
nice,
That sounds nice.
very nice.
And if they have, do you know if they have a flyer or anything? If not, I'll just send an email, but if they have a flyer, we can put it in the lobby and we can pass it
Yeah.
out to clients.
I'm
So-
sure they'll have one.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm sure they have something,
Okay, I'll reach out to them.
yeah.
Give me some contact and I'll reach out to
Yep.
them.
I can help you with that.
Okay.
Anybody else got any questions? All right, thank you,
Right,
Brandy, as
thank
always,
you.
great
Thank you,
job.
Brandy.
All right, this brings us to the end of our meeting, and tonight's going to be a little bit different. As you will see on our agenda, the next board meeting is scheduled for Tuesday, July the 25th. But we're not going to adjourn our meeting tonight. We will continue our meeting, and we will reconvene on July the 11th at 5 o'clock here in this location. At that time, we will be presented the applicants for the Western Piedmont Council of Government. They will be presenting the applicants for the search for a new director. And we will have the opportunity to talk with them and visit and talk about the applicants and hopefully make a decision on who we will bring forward for the next interview process. So with that, we don't need an adjournment or anything. We will just, like I said, we will stop our meeting at this point, and we will reconvene on July the 11th at 6 o'clock. Anybody got any questions?
That's 6.
I'm sorry, 5 o'clock. One thing I did want to ask, Tracy, we talked about this before you got here earlier. Would moving our meetings to 6 o'clock help you? I think it would help me some. I wouldn't be felt like I'm as rushed. Would that help you at all?
Not necessarily. 5
Okay.
o'clock is usually okay with me, as
Okay.
long as I remember what time it is.
No, I got it. You're good. It wasn't because
Because
we
I
were
can
talking
go
about it.
from there to here pretty quickly.
We were talking
obviously.
about it before you,
Either one
yeah.
works for me.
So I know that, well, if we're okay leaving it at 5, I guess we'll just leave it at 5. Because we were more concerned about you and maybe chapel,
Yeah, no, I'm good.
Okay.
And after the summer, I teach at App State on
Yeah.
Tuesday, the last Tuesday night, well, every Tuesday night. And so it's been a challenge, but it shouldn't be too much of an issue, but
We'll work
for
through
a
it.
couple more weeks.
No worries at all. So if anybody don't have any question, we will end our meeting at this point and reconvene in July. All right,
good.
sounds good. Thank you, guys. Thank you
Thank
guys for being
everybody.
here this evening.